Hello viewers and welcome back to this YouTube channel, solutions.com. I would like to admonish you to kindly subscribe, like, and share the videos. I believe there would be one or two things you will add to your already existing knowledge. Thank you as you do so. In this video, we will be proving that y raised to the power of 0 is equals to 1. And we will be doing that in 3 ways. We just mentioned it now that we were going to prove that y raised to the power of 0 is equals to 1. And we said we were going to do that in 3 different ways. Here we are now with the first scenario. Now, y raised to the power of 0 is the same as saying y raised to the power of 1 minus 1. Because 1 minus 1, as we can see in this part or exponent, is equals to 0. All we are simply doing is to rewrite that exponent of 0 with 1 minus 1. Now, when we have that, y raised to the power of 1 minus 1, that is y raised to the power of 0, which is equals to y raised to the power of 1 minus 1, can now be expressed, as we can see on the bottom right, as y raised to the power of 1 times y raised to the power of minus 1. So we have succeeded in rewriting by saying that y raised to the power of 0 is the same as y raised to the power of 1 times y raised to the power of minus 1. Now, what we can do is once again to rewrite and say y raised to the power of 1 times 1 over y raised to the power of 1. So what we have is, we're saying that y raised to the power of 0 is now equals to y raised to the power of 1 times 1 over y raised to the power of 1. So what we simply did is, this value is equals to this value. This value, y raised to the power of minus 1, is the same as 1 over y raised to the power of 1. So if we have y raised to the power of minus 2, this is going to be simply the same as 1 over y raised to the power of 2. So now that that is clear, we will simplify it further and say y over y, because y raised to the power of 1 is y, and that's what we have here. And then 1 over y raised to the power of 1 is 1 over y, and that's what we have here. By the time we multiply y times 1 over y, we have y over y. So that's what we have when we simplify this further. So what we have said is y raised to the power of 0 is the same as y over y. So a over a is equals to 1, b over b is equals to 1. So y over y is also equals to 1. But let's simplify that. Y here 1, y here 1. So what we have is 1 over 1, which is equals to 1. So we can clearly see that y raised to the power of 0 is equals to 1. This time around, in scenario 2, we will also be proving that y raised to the power of 0 is equals to 1. But this time around, we will be starting with 1. Remember in the last or in the first scenario, we started with y raised to the power of 0, and then we expressed y raised to the power of 0 as y raised to the power of 1 minus 1. But this time around, we are starting with 1. And then we're going to work backwards and express what 1 could look like. So 1 is also equals to 5 over 5 1 is also equals to a over a, but because we're trying to express it in terms of y, we will express y, or rather we will express 1 as equals to y over y. So that's the way we're going to play this game this time around. So 1 is equals to y over y, and that is equals to y raised to the power 1 over y raised to the power of 1. So we have 1 to be equals to y raised to the power of 1 times 1 over y raised to the power of 1. So what we will simply do is to further rewrite it. That is the right hand side. So 1 is now equals to y raised to the power of 1 times y raised to the power of minus 1. We know clearly that when we have 1 over y raised to the power 2, for instance, this is the same as y raised to the power of minus 2. So like we have here, 1 over y raised to the power of 1 will be equals to y raised to the power of minus 1. So that's why this now transforms to this. So 1 is equals to y raised to the power 1 plus bracket open minus 1 bracket close for that particular expression. Now, what happens and why did we have that? If you, in the law of indices, when you have a common base, what's the common base? The common base is you have y here, you have y here, and then you have another y here, and then you're multiplying them. What you simply do when you're multiplying common bases is to keep that base constant, which is here. And then what you simply do is to take this index and add it to this index. So that's why we are adding 1 plus the minus 1. So let me come again. When you're multiplying with a common base, that is y raised to the power 1 in this particular case, times y raised to the power of minus 1. Y is the common base. So keep that common base constant and then simply add the indices. So that's why we're adding 1 plus minus 1. And what happens is that we have y raised to the power of 1 minus 1. Because if you come here, plus and then minus, by the time you open the bracket, becomes a minus, and that's what's responsible for this minus here. So we have 1 minus 1. And therefore we have 1 is equals to y raised to the power of 0. So we've been able to express 1 to be equals to y raised to the power 1 plus bracket open minus 1 bracket close, where we were able to further simplify it as y into 1 minus 1. That is y into the power of 1 minus 1, and where we have 1 minus 1 to be equals to 0, therefore we have y raised to the power 0. So what we can simply see is that 1 is equals to y raised to the power 0, which means that y raised to the power 0 is also equals to 1. So we have successfully solved scenario 2, and we've also established that y raised to the power 0 is equals to 1. Now let's take a look at this third example or third proof method, and what we're trying to prove is the same: y raised to the power 0 is equals to 1. What we'll simply do is to look at this expression, and this expression is simply part of the law of indices. Now when you have an expression y which is raised to the power of a minus b is simply y raised to the power a divided by y raised to the power b. So that's just what you have. And now we'll be making some assumptions. If a is equals to b, that means wherever you see a, put b. Then let's see how this plays out. Remember we said if a is equals to b, that means wherever we see a, we put b. The left-hand side now becomes y raised to the power of b minus b, which of course will get y raised to the power 0 because b minus b is 0, and therefore you're going to have y raised to the power 0 on the left-hand side. But let's anticipate that, but I believe that's what's going to play out. And then let's look on the right-hand side. Since the exponent is now equals to b, that means what we have on the top, y raised to the power b, is the same as what we have on the bottom, y raised to the power b. That is y raised to the power of b divided by y raised to the power b. That's what we have on the right hand side. And a over a is equals to 1, 5 over 5 is equals to 1, 6 over 6 is equals to 1. Y raised to the power of b divided by y raised to the power of b should also be equals to 1. So what do we have next? Y raised to the power b here, 1. Y raised to the power b at the bottom, 1. So we have y raised to the power of 0 on the left hand side. Remember that b minus b is 0. So the power now becomes 0, and then therefore we have y raised to the power 0, and it's equals to 1. So we have established also that y raised to the power 0 in the third scenario is also equals to 1. Now generally we know that any number, any alphabet, so anything raised to the power 0 is 1. 5 raised to the power 0 is 1. 100 raised to the power 0 is 1. A raised to the power 0 is 1. But remember there's an exception. This is not applicable for 0 raised to the power of 0. 0 raised to the power of 0 definitely is not 1. If you even try it with your calculator, you get an error message. Thank you for watching this YouTube video. Kindly subscribe, kindly like, and kindly share. Thank you once again.